love Autumn. I think Autumn's doing great. I think her acting is great, her comedic timing's great, her voice is great. I think she all around is doing a great job with this piece.
Hi, I'm Seth Bisen-Hersh, and as you just saw, I was a pianist on one episode of Legally Blonde, The Search for Elle Woods. I thought I would tell you all about my experience in this video, and if you like it, please click the like button and subscribe. Let's start at the very beginning. It's always a good place to start. Back in 2008, I am still a professional pianist. Now I mostly do cabarets, mostly at Don't Tell Mama, which is, you know, a renowned cabaret venue here in New York City. But in 2008, I also was playing a lot of auditions for musicals, for Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theaters, and I was hustling to get these jobs. And whenever a theater posted on Playbill.com or in Backstage, I would write the company and I would send them my resume and a little cover letter being like, I'm available for your auditions, yada, yada, yada. And it actually was very effective because often, especially the companies not in New York City, they didn't have a pianist here who to play their auditions yet. So I got a lot of gigs that way. And one of the audition notices was for Legally Blonde, The Search for Elle Woods, you guessed it. And I sent my resume with a little letter, and I didn't hear back about the auditions, but a few months later when they were filming, they sent me an email saying, we need a pianist for a workshop on Thursday, can you do it? And I believe that they emailed on like Monday or Tuesday. And of course, I said yes. Like, I'm not gonna turn down being on a show that's on MTV. I mean, that's just way cool. And so I said, sure, I will do it. And incidentally, I was at the time interning for Seth Rudetsky, who, if you are watching this video, you probably watch Legally Blonde. You probably know who Seth is. And I was interning for Seth, videoing his Chatterbox series at Don't Tell Mama, which I did for about 7 years. And he, I think, put in a good word for me, Seth. It's actually funny. We're both named Seth, and we're both Jewish, and we both have the same birthday. I know, isn't that crazy? It kind of blows your mind, you know? Seth and Seth, born on the same day. Of course, he's older than I am, but I won't tell you how much older. So anyway, actually, funny story of how I met Seth is I was interning for Milrose Music, which is a small one-man recording studio. This was in between, I had 2 years at NYU getting my master's, and this was the summer in between. They made you do an internship, and I saw, you know, the posting on the board, and I thought, well, this guy sounds like fun. He's worked with some Broadway people. Why not? And so Seth came in to redo the opening for his Chatterbox, which was on a CD. Talk about, I won't tell you the date, but it was on a CD. It was not, nowadays I think it would be on a flash drive or an MP3 or whatever. And he came in, he's like, I just lost the person I had filming for me every week. Would you be interested? And I was like, you got it, Seth. This'll be amazing. And that's how I learned about Don't Tell Mama, and I started doing my own shows there. And incidentally, while we're on Milrose Music, the other Broadway person that I met that summer was, drum roll, Larry O'Keefe. I kid you not. It's actually quite a coincidence. It's quite a coincidence that I met both Seth and Larry in the same summer, because we were working on the tracks for Larry's musical Sarah Plain and Tall, which was at Theater Works that summer. And I got to know Larry really well. And, you know, I see him, last time I saw him was at the Jerry Herman Memorial, but I did, when I went to see Heathers, this is the story of Larry O'Keefe is the man. She's like the nicest person ever. I saw Heathers, the musical off-Broadway. I am, like, pretty sure if you're watching this video, you do not need me to explain what Heathers the musical is, or Heathers the movie, or anything else about it. But just in case you don't know Larry also co-composed the score to that show. He also wrote Legally Blonde. And so I saw Larry and I was like, Larry, I'm so excited to see the show. How are you doing? And then people kept coming up to him because, you know, he's Larry O'Keefe. And he kept introducing me as, he said, you need to meet Seth. He is a brilliant upcoming composer lyricist. And he just kept calling me brilliant. And I was just like, my mind was blown because, you know, Larry is brilliant. I mean, he's brilliant. And here he's calling me brilliant. So, like, that's just the story to say Larry is amazing. And another coincidence, because, you know, it's a small world, after all, is that one of the chorus members of Heather's musical, Matthew Schatz, would end up starring in my off-Broadway musical Love Quirks, which, you know, just ran 3 months last summer. So it's like everything is connected in the world. So, all right, final Larry O'Keefe story. When I ran into Larry right after my episode had aired on MTV, I ran into him on 9th Avenue, and I think we were like crossing 9th Avenue, and I was like, hey, he's like, I saw you jamming it up on the TV show, and I was like, yeah, that was me. So there's proof. But I mean, you already saw the video. It is true. So let's go back to the actual shooting that day. I think that's probably what you're here for, and not that I know. Apparently, it's really popular again. I didn't actually know this. Sidebar: I had in the last week 2 people mention this TV show, Legally Blonde: The Search for Elle Woods, and I was like, how are you watching this still? Because it came out like 2008. That's 15 years ago. People who are telling me this are like 22. I'm like, you were a child. But apparently it's had a resurgence, and it's up on YouTube, which is why I thought maybe putting this video on YouTube, people would be interested. So anyway, if you're watching, thank you very much if you're still here. So let's talk about the experience. So I remember it was very early. It was like I had to get the van at like 7 a.m. I remember it left, I believe it was PJ Clark's right in Lincoln Center is where they picked us up. I think there was the hotel right there, and that's where all the girls were staying, and that's where I had to meet. And I will tell you, I am not a morning person. I usually get up around the crack of noon. I work nights. I watch TV after midnight. It's so nice and quiet. You can get a lot of TV watching done. And so to get up that early, it has to be a really ginormous, huge thing. And to me, this was, you know, and I was just so super excited and exhausted because it's way early in the morning. So we get the van, and I talk to Rusty, who's running the workshop, and he hands me the pink paper of I Keep It Positive, and it was really cool, you know? And those were in the days where you couldn't just illegally pirate the whole score, which I'm sure everyone watching this has at this point. That this music was hard to get because the show was still running. It was not published anywhere. Of course, I do not have the pink music to show you right now. I apologize. A few years ago, I went on a little bit of a purge because I just have so much clutter in this apartment. And I had a stack of sheet music this large, and I was like, I have most of this digitally now. I don't really need this much sheet music. And I donated it. My friend who works at Pearl Studios brought it to Pearl Studios, put it out on a table, and I'm sure somebody took the pink music and was very excited about it. And if that person is you, leave a comment to say, that was me, or maybe it all just got recycled. Hopefully it got recycled and not thrown out, because I am pro-environment. And so he gave me the music, and I was like, fine, this looks great. And he basically admitted that he wasn't told that the pianist and the drummer were going to be there that day, but he would find some way to use this at some point. I said, whatever, I get paid either way, which is true. So we get there, 8 or 9 in the morning, and I got my hair and makeup done. And I'll tell you, hair does not take that long on me. It's not really a long process on a film set to fix my non-existent hair. And makeup also not a long process. So I got that done, and then I don't know if any of you have worked on a TV film set, but it is very much hurry up and wait. They get you all ready, and then you sit around for hours, and maybe you take a nap, or maybe you have some food because you're there for like a 12-hour day. Of course, they have to feed you, otherwise it would be really inhumane. So you eat, and you kind of sit there, and I'll tell you, and then you're used, and then you go back to waiting. When I did my sitcom pilot, Everyday Little Seth, I must say, when I was in charge, I said, I don't want to call the actors until like, an hour before they're actually going to be used. But if you're not in charge, you just kind of have to go with the flow, which is a lesson I have learned, and that's a good lesson to impart to anyone who's going to be in this business. You have to go with the flow sometimes, especially when you're not in charge. So I was just kind of hanging out with the drummer, and at some point we began filming. We did begin filming, and for most of the episode, the drummer and I are at the piano and the drums, and we're just there as like kind of scenery. And then we had, of course, a lunch break. I think at the lunch break, that's when I talked to the girls. So at that point, as I'm sure you all know, it was down to four of the girls. It was Lauren, Bailey, Autumn, and Rhiannon, and I did become Facebook friends with all of them, though I think the only ones that I am still in touch with are Lauren and Autumn. I will say, incidentally, I do know 3 of the other Legally Blonde girls who had been cut prior to my episode. I actually knew Lindsay Ridgway for years before the show even happened, and then I've worked with Cassie Okenka and Selena Carvajal, who, of course, you all know goes by Lena Hall now. So I did work with both Lena and Cassie over the years. Every one of them is just really wonderful. They're all wonderful to work with. I have no tea to spill about them. They are all lovely people, and I'm a terrible liar. So if I was like lying, you would know. So that's the truth. That's the truth. But the day of, I was talking. So Autumn, I recognized from playing auditions, and I believe she had been in the Little Women tour, and I played auditions for the Little Women tour. I remember the composer Jason Howland. This is totally off topic, but he was really like into moving keys. So he kept being like, I don't want to force you to transpose on site, even though it is something I do. And he would come and say, let's try this up a third. And I think he just likes to show off. But anyway, I said to Autumn, I think we've met at these auditions because, Autumn is not a very common name. It's not as common as, say, summer or winter or spring. Well, I guess it's more common than winter or spring. But I was like, your name is very recognizable. And she said, yes, well, there aren't that many sets either. I totally know who you are. You've definitely played for me. And of course, as you know, because you're all fans of the show, Autumn was the oldest. And so she was, I am, of course, older than Autumn, but she was the closest to my age. And so we had a lot of, friends in common. And so I just basically hung out with her a lot of those breaks because, someone who I could talk to who was really a peer. And I have, over the years, I did play for Autumn. We used to do these benefit concerts in people's apartments for a while. And of course, so those of you on YouTube who are huge fans of her might know, she did sing one of the songs from Love Quirks in one of my cabaret benefits.
How are you today? Did you sleep okay? I tossed all night, but I don't sleep well in strange beds. Not that yours was strange, it was a nice change. I mean, it's not like you're a stranger, and even if you were, I certainly had stranger. This is awkward, and it shouldn't be. Nothing's changed, so we had a fling, so I've seen your thing. I've seen plenty before, well, not that many. I'm not a whore.
Eventually, we were about done with the episode, and I'll tell you, it is reality TV, but I will break it to you. There is a lot of restarting. There's a lot of can you have a bigger reaction to that? There's a lot of do it again, we didn't get that sound, or there's a noise outside. And so even though it is reality, it is a bit staged. It's not like completely scripted or anything, but it takes some time, especially if you're doing like, dance moves or whatever. If someone really messes up, sometimes you don't want that footage. You want them to excel. Sometimes you do want them to mess up, and so you do it again until someone messes up, and then you can use that footage or whatever. But the day was about over, and then I think it was the director who said something like, oh my gosh, we have had the pianist and the drummer in the shot for like most of this episode, and we have done nothing. My cat is meowing. You want to come up and say hi? This is my cat, Joni. You probably just heard her meowing. So basically, we sat there the entire time not being used, and finally someone noticed and was like, it would look really strange in this episode if we don't show them at least a little bit. So I think we played for a minute, maybe it was two, and they were like, just jam out. And so I jammed out on MTV. How cool is that? Let's play that clip again.
I love Autumn. I think Autumn's doing great. I think her acting is great. Her comedic timing's great. Her voice is great. I think she all around is doing a great job with this piece.
So that's my claim to fame, guys. You can watch me in the episode in the back for, the whole like first chunk of it. And then you can see me in that little montage and you can hear me. And that's it. I was a part of Legally Blonde: The Search for Elle Woods. And what can I say? It was a fun day. I got paid to play for about 2 minutes. As a quick coda to the story. So months after the show ended, I received another check in the mail that basically doubled what I was paid for the show. And at first I thought it was a mistake. I was like, well, if MTV wants to send me money, of course I'm going to cash the check. Like, that's another life lesson, guys. If you're sent a check, put it in your bank account. But then I messaged Seth, or it was probably email. It probably wasn't text in 2008. I sent Seth an email. I was like, I just got another check for this show, but I already was paid 6 months ago. What's happening? And he wrote me back. He's like, girl, they decided to release the show in Canada, and we all got another check doubling what we got paid. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, TV and film royalties are amazing. And so I got paid all this money to play piano for a minute, and it's totally enshrined in the episodes that people are watching again. It's like the definition of passive income. So that is really cool, and I can't believe Joni's still in my arms. She's really sweet. So if you would like, to check out more of my stuff, as I said, like and subscribe. You can go to my webpage, SethBH.com. That's the jingle I wrote for my webpage. I'll put it on the screen there, SethBH.com. And you can see all this other stuff that I've done, which I won't bore you with in this video. And you can follow me also at SethBH.com. You can follow my musical Love Quirks at Love Quirks. And you can follow this new short film I'm doing at Malka Film. So I'll put those all here on the screen. Like and subscribe. I think I'm supposed to say, I'll tell you, my 6-year-old nephew, he was doing a puppet show for us, and at the end of the puppet show, he said, don't forget to like and subscribe. So I think he probably watches more YouTube than I do, but I appreciate you watching this, if you made it through the end, and thank you, Joni, and have fun binging this show from 15 years ago. It's exciting that it's back.